Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Each week, our hosts will be interviewing local, regional, and national business leaders to give you an inside peek into how they lead their business to success in the ever-competitive business climate.
Welcome to another episode of Inside the Firm. This is a Monday morning edition. I'm Alex Gore. I'm here with Adam Wagoner. Adam is a graduate of K-State, principal at Vessel Office of Architecture, and host of Architecting Podcast, and also an instructor at CU Denver. Adam, welcome Inside the Firm.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, first off, what was your experience like at K-State? I'm a fan of state schools, NDSU, all that. I don't think they get enough love because they're not Yale and Harvard and SciArc and all that.
Yeah. You know, I think like with a lot of people, you know, you kind of like when you're looking for an undergrad, I sort of just fell into the school that was next to me. And so I grew up in Kansas, and so just decided between University of Kansas and Kansas State.
They both have architecture?
They both have architecture, yeah.
Which is unusual.
Yeah, and they're both pretty competitive. And I think it's interesting. Like Missouri doesn't have an architecture school, and so they kind of have a reciprocal program with Kansas. But growing up, like the two schools are big rivals, and I was always like a Kansas fan growing up, kind of for no reason. But then I don't think I got studio space right away at Kansas, and I had more friends going to Kansas State, and I kind of just landed there. But yeah, I was really happy with the education I got there. It was just a really well-rounded school. I'd say, like a little more towards maybe a technical side. It's you said it's funny because it's not Yale or Harvard, but then after Kansas State, I went to Yale.
Oh, you did?
To finish up my degree. Yeah.
So, okay, now what's the difference then? How was your experience at Yale? I didn't catch that. I did a little bit of research, but I didn't catch that one.
Didn't scroll down as far.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so...
You're not like those Harvard folks that just wear it on their chest all the time.
Yeah. The stinking Harvard people. Yeah.
No, we Yale people are nothing like those.
Nothing like. You can't see my tie and my sweater vest right now.
Right. It's a bow tie, people.
Bow tie. So I think my journey was a little different where. I graduated from Kansas State in 2009, so big recession, and my vegetarian uncle decided to start a hot dog restaurant in Wichita, Kansas, and so...
Wait, you said vegetarian?
Yeah, vegetarian. It was, and he was a doctor. His surgeon partner wanted to start this, and so he helped him set this up, and my uncle is just like a fabulous chef as well, and so he came up with this whole menu, kind of like making himself sick eating these hot dogs, but they're just like really good gourmet hot dogs. And so anyway,
a good hot dog is underrated. Yeah. A good brat is underrated.
Exactly. These brats and like the best tater tots. So it was a funny thing where
the bun can make it too.
It was good bun.
Welcome to Hot Dog Talk. Here at F9. We'll be tasting hot dogs for the next half hour.
Stay tuned for the next hour and a half. Anyway, so my girlfriend at the time was also was in my class, and we had partnered up on projects, and so we sort of started our own firm to design this hot dog restaurant in Kansas, and then got married pretty soon after that. But like designed and framed and built a lot of this hot dog restaurant, which is pretty nice, like a large amount of glass, like modern, clean, and then helped kind of develop the concept for the restaurant in general. And then my uncle and his partner sort of liked that so much, they closed down their medical practice and became developers in Wichita, and actually like are affecting a really good amount of change there, and like renovating a ton of downtown buildings and reactivating the downtown. And so we were a part of that as well.
Are you still a part of that?
So I do a little bit of work with him still. But so then from there, we did that for a while, and then we wanted to go back to grad school to kind of fill out some of our gaps in our education, I'd say. And so Rebecca went to TU Delft in the Netherlands, and so we moved there for 2 years. And then from there, that's when I wanted to kind of go to grad school as well. And I think Kansas State gave me a lot, but I think there's some things in terms of sort of theory and fabrication and things like that I saw gaps in, and Yale was a good place for me to kind of just focus on those things. So a post-professional master's.
So what degree did you get from K-State?
Yeah, so we got a 5-year master's
Okay.
from them. So yeah, officially I have like 2 masters and no undergrad.
I tell my friends who are real doctors that makes me a doctor. So my opinion is just as valid as theirs.
Or you just like a master?
Yeah, master in architecture and construction management. Obviously, I'm a doctor. Let me answer your questions.
Does it work? Yeah.
No, but one of my other friends is a PhD, so not a doctor, but he's in soccer and sports and all that stuff. And the one that is a doctor, so like I actually had a couple things, like random things, like what is this bump or what's going on here. So I'll text the whole group with the real doctor on there, but the other guys will answer quicker and then make fun of the doctor for being such an idiot that they didn't know. And they actually diagnosed it. It was a hernia. I didn't even know what a hernia was. Yeah. But one of my friends was like, yeah, you got a hernia.
It's a lot of pressure being a doctor. Yeah,
But not only like your job, but your friends.
But your friends, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably, they don't tell you about that. Okay. Then you got accepted into Yale. Did probably a bunch of cool, 2 years probably?
2 years, yep. Yeah, 2 years.
And then where did you go from there?
And then one of my professors was...
I want to button this up. Did your wife stay with you the whole time? Are you still a wife?
She's still with me, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how to ask that. Like, did this work?
Yeah, it did work out. Although, she's a lot smarter than I am, and she got a full ride to graduate school, and I could never get a work permit in the Netherlands, and so I was just kind of like scabbing jobs together and working still for my uncle remotely. And then when I went to Yale, I didn't get a full ride, and she was working full time for Caesar Pelli. So
she's much better than you.
She's much better. She's an architect at Gensler now here, and again, now that I have my own firm, paying for me again. So she's wonderful.
Good.
Love you, Rebecca.
Yeah, there you go. Shout out to Rebecca. Anyways, so 2 years. Yeah, where do you go from there?
So my last professor there was Tatiana Bilbao. And so she offered Rebecca and I a job at her office in Mexico City when we graduated. So we moved down there until my graduate school loans came due, and then we had to move back and not get paid in pesos. But so we were there for 6 months, and then we moved to Denver about 6 or 7 years ago.
Awesome. Why Denver?
So her family is from Colorado, and I think I'd say most of my class was working in New York from grad school, and that was sort of the other option. But I think we love Denver, just the size of city it is, and had a university that we could tap into, and I think a good design culture, but I think a design culture that we saw that we could really kind of build into and contribute to.
Yeah.
And mountains like everybody else,
Yep. Your guys' work is amazing. We'll talk about that in the future, but I mean it is awesome. It's really top notch. When you came into Denver, like are you still getting funneled work was it your uncle?
Mm-hmm.
And is that helping? Did Rebecca have, I'm saying that right?
Yeah, Rebecca, yep.
Did she have a job in place before you moved? Did you start off on your own, or how did you land in Denver? What's happening?
Yeah. So I think...
What year is this?
So this is 2016.
Okay. 6
years, yeah. So I think, I I've always sort of liked to bounce around, and my dad has his own small general construction company in Kansas, just him and his brother. And I think I always saw him owning his own company, controlling his own schedule. And I think that always really appealed to me of sort of being my own boss. Mm-hmm. And so doing that straight out of school, I've worked for, I don't know, 7 or 8 different firms, but never longer than 2 years. And so I think not spending a long amount of time in the firms, you don't always know how to do things correctly, right? And so I moved to Denver, and I was like, I need to buckle down at a firm. And I think I always have these experiences where I come off something and think I'm really hot shit, and then get knocked down. And it, it happened after Kansas State, got knocked down, build a hot dog restaurant. You move to Europe, you think Ome is going to be just, please come work for me, and you can't get a job for a year. I think
just a quick aside, after my first summer kind of doing this on my own, not even licensed, but doing residential and stuff like that, I'm like, I'm basically an architect. And me, like, I don't know how many years later, 10, 12 years later, I'm like, yeah, you're an idiot. You Nope.
yeah, exactly. But anyway, so I moved to Denver. I was just coming off of my fancy bow tie Yale degree, working in Mexico. And I reached out to a ton of firms that I thought were doing really good work, and made a lot of friendships, but not that many people were hiring. And then I landed at a firm called 359 Design in Denver.
Mm-hmm, I've heard of them.
Yeah, so
good stuff.
Yeah, so I was the design director there for 3 years, and then I hit a point where I just wanted to do my own thing again, and so I started doing that, and then sort of got lonely and got tired of being by myself and started doing freelance work for Open Studio. And then eventually all of my time was with Open Studio. And then I worked for them, Open Studio Architecture in Denver.
I want to know, are they affiliated with like 41st Day?
No.
Do you know who I'm talking about there?
No, I don't know that.
Okay. Where's Open Studio at?
They're on Park Street.
Okay,
Park
not
Ave.
Santa Fe.
No.
Okay.
They won AIA Young Firm of the Year 2 years ago, I think. Sort of an offshoot group from Gensler, but learned a lot there. And
so they're not just a whole bunch of freelancers; they're a legit firm.
No. This is it's a full firm.
Okay, I just thought the name.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Okay. So Open Studio.
Studio. And then I had been talking to 2 friends from Connecticut, and we'd been talking for 3 or 4 years about starting a firm. And finally, sort of pandemic hit. One of the other guys got laid off from his job, and it kind of spurred us to start our new firm, Vessel Office. So we officially started that about 6 or 7 months ago.
Okay, so 6 or 7 months, and then you had your own thing going for what, maybe 6 or 7 months before Open?
Yeah, about a year. Yep.
Yeah. Question. So that the idea, and I like it, and sometimes it's true, being your own boss, controlling your own schedule. I remember just starting out. It was hard. We were starting out around 2009, 2008, 2009, and one of my buddies who was down here would always text me like Wednesday at like 11, like, let's go to the mountains or let's do something. I know that it's just me and Lance, but like, I do have a real job. I have real stuff to do.
I know.
I can't just. So are you successful at controlling your own schedule?
Well, I think, and this is where we're pretty interesting, super interesting parallels between the two of us where, we both teach, we both have a podcast, and I think that's where the flexibility is for me, where I'm always grabbing coffee with somebody, always sneaking out for class, always doing this, and that all the firms allowed me to do that, but I always sort of felt bad. And so now I feel less bad. I'm only letting my partner down instead of a firm, but
yeah, that makes sense. Like, I got to go to the dentist, no big deal. I got to pick up my dog or whatever. But you're still working. Well, here's a question, because I see a lot of carryover from studio culture, where you work from 5 to midnight, 5 to 1. And I've even seen some architects, like, they do that their whole career. They'll do like 10 and they'll work till like midnight. rather than like an 8 to 5. What is your schedule like? Because I think that that's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I work, I have two small kids. And so I drop them off at daycare and then work 8 to 5 and then make dinner at 5. And then, most nights I go back to work at like 8 to kind of midnight, I'd say. And that's not every night, but I think that studio culture is really true. And I used to say that I thought I was like addicted to stress, like from architecture, where if you're not stressed, you're not feeling productive or good. But actually, just this last month, I guess, I got diagnosed with ADHD at like 36 years old, and I didn't know it. And it's really illuminated a lot of these things where a typical ADHD person, I'm not an expert by any sense, but always needs to be challenged and sort of needs to live almost on that edge of stress. And so I think it's kind of explained a lot of things for me of why I push to do all these different things and kind of not sleep as much and stuff like that. And so I'm sort of in the process of reevaluating that and like trying to bring that back a little bit.
Yeah. One thing that I think is completely different, I didn't spend too many times in firms just because of the way the situation in my life worked out. But the more that you're a firm owner, and then the more, until you probably get so established that you have so many repeat clients, like you're walking a tightrope. And that can be uncomfortable. And I don't know if firm owners talk about that enough. Like there's a tightrope of what work you're doing, how much money you're breaking in, and then bringing in. Do you have responsibilities to others? It's a real thing. And then also that ADHD thing makes sense. But what I see a lot too in design, I think this isn't just to architecture. It can be to a lot of different medias, like media design, fashion design, is that there's no structural engineering. Here's the calculation. You're looking at one of these buildings and you're doing a design and you think, okay, how can I prove it? What if I do something else? What if I do something else? And if you don't put time constraints on you, you could literally go forever. Like you could probably redesign the same house for 5 years of your life. Yeah. If you really want to. Yeah. And that's one of my main things that I tell new firm owners. I don't know if you're doing this. I don't want to put you on the spot or anything like that. But like from day one, we had a timer. And it was, it's I forgot what it is, but you can find an app, a timer that works on. We use Toggle now. But it was something else back in the day. It was really janky. But hey, here's our project. Here, if we want to make however many dollars an hour, here's how many hours I have. Here's a timer. Yeah. And some bigger firms do that. Some bigger firms don't do that. I worked at a firm. There was no such thing. It was just like, here's your work. Just do it. Yeah. I think some firms will even plan out your week and say you have 4 hours on this project, 4 hours on that project. And I always think like, man, that is really hard to estimate down to like those blocks. Yeah. So if you don't have a timer, I'd maybe suggest it.
Yeah. And, I feel like it's less of the design process. I think, much like you guys, we're very streamlined with Revit and designing through Revit and representing and modeling. And so I think we have a little more streamlined there. I think we're pretty good at corralling our design time and setting those goals. It's just all that other stuff, all the legal stuff, the just setting up of everything that just pops up in your day, right? That just takes your legs out from under you.
From 8 a.m. I've been meaning to get one email out. That was my only goal. From 8 a.m., I'm going to walk in. I'm going to send this email out. What time is it? 1:30? And I've typed 2 sentences on it, like phone call,
Do you want to take a break? You want to take a pause? Let's tackle this. Yeah. And ideally, tell me it gets better. But that's just what you have to carve out and do. But I think that's also what I love. Like, I didn't like sitting in a firm working on one project, waiting for somebody to tell me what to do, or having a team of 3 people where I was just looking at one thing for 2 months, Like, yep. I love jumping around and doing this stuff. So,
do you see your firm growing, or do you just like the 2-person kind of thing?
No, it'll definitely grow. And like I said, we have a third partner who hasn't come on yet. And so all three of us have undergrads in architecture, but one of them has a master's in graphic design, and one has a master's in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is to bring the real estate guy on in a few years, and then kind of follow after your guys' footsteps a little bit of doing more of our own development. And I think, I don't know where that grows, but it'll get bigger than 2 or 3 people, but
Yeah.
definitely not a mega firm or something.
Yeah, gotcha. No, one of the coolest kind of realizations was it wasn't necessarily bringing on another partner, it was hiring people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started teaching at CU, and I just remember going to class and teaching a lecture, and it was all fun, and thinking like, oh, there's employees back at the firm doing work that I don't have to do.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
But that's not to say being a firm owner is easy by any stretch. So it's been a tough week this week, but there's ups and downs. There's ups and downs indeed. So how did you start to get work after open?
So I feel like who did I interview? I just interviewed somebody. I think it was EJ Mead of Arc 11, I believe. And he was just saying,
also good firm.
Yeah. And he was just saying, you never know where that's going to come from, but it always seems like it does. Actually, he was quoting Harry Teague. That's what it was. So he was saying, Harry, I don't know where this stuff comes from, but it comes in,
Mm-hmm.
And I think, it's some projects that, from my dad as a contractor, some from old clients that we had, some from house, it's just that kind of random stuff, right? We're partnering with other architects right now. It seems like, there's a lot of firms who have a lot of work and that are smaller, and I'm really interested in this idea of this kind of network of smaller firms that I see as a sort of contrast to these large mega firms that are swallowing up everybody, and that how can we be nimble and partner strategically to do different projects. So we're working with a firm out of the Hamptons, doing some houses with them, and talking with other people, kind of the same stuff. Yeah.
So on your website, vesseloffice.com, I suggest everyone go to it. I think my computer is stuck. There's some amazing projects, and I'm just honestly more curious than anything. Well, maybe I can't turn it around because I'm stuck here. But you have houses. You have Link House, which is actually a commercial thing.
So that's the hot dog restaurant that we did.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So that was when I was 23, and we got that built for like a year, and helped frame it up. It was all with SIPs. We poured all the concrete countertops and tables and inlaid laser cut stuff into it, and did the branding. It's actually out of business, so you can't anymore. But and then at one point we turned it into a Mexican restaurant and did this whole sort of art ceiling installation inside of it. But
when did it officially go out? Was it COVID?
No. It was 2011, I think.
And nothing's in there right now?
Nothing right now, no, yeah.
An architecture firm. You need to move your firm back there.
Right there.
That would be sweet. And then, well, one of the cool things, like this building that we're in doesn't even touch that. But it still works with clients. Like, what's your familiarity with construction, with townhomes? Like, oh, well, we built this.
Yeah.
Or they're like, hey, we like drop steel. Oh, like
there
that.
You go. Yeah.
So you should somehow get that property and work there. It'd be cool. But what I was saying is, because I get this question sometimes from clients, how much of your work is this pretty amazing, cool looking stuff, and how much of it is stuff filling the gaps or stuff that you don't put on your website?
Yeah. We're only 7 months in, and maybe it's more like 50-50. I think that I'm really blessed with a very good partner who balances me in a lot of strong ways, and so he is extremely detail oriented and can really breathe life into projects. And so a lot of those houses on there, he was working for a high-end architect, Roger Ferris, out of like the Hamptons, and was furloughed for a few months, and essentially just started our firm with that, and just started doing these theoretical homes that are on here, and just really designing and rendering them very beautifully. And so that gave us a good sort of beginning, plus my work that we had before joining that.
So Pine Ridge, is it called it Retreat?
Yeah.
I am literally one. I love this building, this house. There are 2 or 3 ones that I don't know if this is a rendering or a real thing.
Yeah.
Like, is this one?
That's rendering, yeah.
That's
and this is just my partner Justin. I mean, and he was just using Twinmotion, so a free program, straight out Twinmotion, no Photoshop. Yeah, he's very impressive.
Twinmotion.
Well,
I've never heard of this.
Yeah. It's with Unreal Engine. It's sort of partnered. I mean, it's from Unreal Engine.
Did he model this in Revit?
Yeah. So again, that's where we really push Revit and modeling, and we modeled it in Revit LT even, so it's all out of place masses and things. But
yep. The other one too, man. What was the other one that I was? Well, the quarantine treehouse.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah, that's real.
Is that yours?
That's mine. Yeah. So that was.
Good marketing with that name.
Yeah. So again, that was quarantine hit. We have 2 little kids. We live in an 800 square foot bungalow in the middle of Denver. My wife and I are home, and we had this junky fence that was about to fall down. And so one day I just tore it down and didn't know how to get rid of the wood. And so we just built a tree house for our little kids. And then luckily I'm friends with JC Buck, the fabulous photographer, and so I made him a margarita and some tacos, and he came over and shot that for free. And then we submitted that to Modern in Denver, and then that led to sort of my podcast partnership with Modern in Denver. So it was a really good thing to tear down that fence.
Yeah. We'll keep going into that, but the other one that I can't believe is a rendering, and you're probably going to tell me it is a rendering, is this one. Silver Hill House.
Oh, really?
Is that one also a rendering?
That is a rendering, yeah.
Why? Am I getting old? Because I guess I suspected that this one was a rendering.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they are really, really... Like, this one, this image, that could be, like... I know it's your work, so maybe you don't want to brag, but, like, that could fool people.
Yeah. I mean, and I will brag because it's not my work, because Justin did that image again. And that's actually done in Lumion. But Justin's also a good photographer, and I think he has a really good understanding of light as well.
Yep.
And so.
Okay. Before we go into the podcast, how did you're teaching at Denver, University of Colorado in Denver. There's a Boulder campus, which is the main campus. Denver campus is sort of the satellite and has the master's program in architecture
and undergrad.
They have undergrad too?
Yep.
Is it environmental design?
No, it's an accredited undergrad architecture program.
Yeah. When you were at K-State, was it environmental design?
We did environmental design for the first year, and then you decide which if you want to go to landscape architecture, interior, or architecture after that first year.
Gotcha. So how did you get the Denver gig, and what are you doing at Denver?
Yeah, I came to Colorado just really looking to network and meet people, and so I reached out to a few people at the university, Rick Sommerfeld right away, and built a friendship with him. And I think, I got a lecturing position pretty early on after moving here, and started teaching studios. And now I've transitioned a little bit more where I'm teaching more representational seminars about sort of different crazy things, and then and now doing more graduate studios.
Gotcha. So just your regular studio that anyone would recognize, just an architectural studio, focus on whatever projects that semester.
The main course, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. How did this podcast develop?
So yeah, I think the podcast, again, I loved coming here and having the excuse to meet a lot of architects that I liked, of trying to get a job.
Yep.
And then you get a job and there's not much of an excuse to meet people, having reviews and things for school. I would reach out to the people I'd want to know, and most of them would ignore me and some wouldn't, and I would become friends with them. And then that sort of stopped, and it was just like, hey, let's find a way to bring this community together a little bit better. I feel like there's a lot of good architects in Colorado, and I would talk to one architect who I thought was really good about another architect, and they had never heard of each other, and that was sort of mind-boggling to me, or didn't know each other's work. And so I was like, okay, let's record these people's stories, maybe help connect people. If nobody listens, who cares? Let's just sort of record the design culture of this time, and then in 50 years or whatever, people can see what was going on. I would love to go back and hear what Temple Beale was up to, or whoever, these architects. And so that was sort of the goal. And yeah, it's worked out a lot better than I thought, and really kind of, I get a lot of emails saying, I met this person because I heard them on here, and we now we're working on projects together or whatever. And so that's the goal.
Yep. And the name of it again is
Architecting.
Yeah. Architect, and then little dash, ing.
Little dash and ing. Yep. I thought that looked better on the logo because architecting was too long, and so I split it up, and then I went with it. And then about 2 weeks later, somebody else started another podcast called Architecting without the dash, and now I'm kicking myself for putting that dash in there. But yeah.
That is so funny. There's a page called What's Up Longmont, and apparently the moderators upset some people. So then a new page was made, and it was just called What's Up Longmont Official.
Yeah.
The official one is actually the second one.
I need to take the dash off and then say official. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Architecting. Official Architecting.
Yeah.
Podcast. Well, cool. Anything that you want to talk about that we didn't touch that you want to get out to our listeners, or a concept or idea that we kind of glossed over that you want to revisit?
No, I mean, I think, just thinking back to my podcast episodes I've had so far, only a year, not as long as, or as many as you guys. I don't know how you put that all out, but we'll get into that when I interview you next. But I think the biggest takeaway I keep seeing over and over from these people who have these great firms is, just how hard it is to start a firm. And, talking about EJ Mead, he's saying that for the first 3 years, the highest paid employee in the firm was the intern. It takes a long time, and there's never a great time to start a firm. And I think just taking that advice to anybody else of just jump and figure it out and see where projects come. And
yep.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. And I often encourage it a lot on my podcast. I don't think I say necessarily how hard it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to sort of forget those earlier times, I think.
Yeah.
Or you just don't want to
talk about
keep talking about how hard it is all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Or say how stupid you were, or where you messed up.
Yeah.
Those are kind of nothing happened here. Nothing happened here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, great. Well, thanks for the conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me on.
People can just Google Architecting with the Dash podcast.
The Dash.
Find the right one, the official one. Anywhere else you want to point them to?
Nope, that sounds good. Yeah, you can see more images from my guest on Instagram or my website as well.
The names of those?
architect-ing.com is the website, and it's Architecting Stories on Instagram.
Perfect. Thank you, Adam.
Sounds good. Thanks.